Makijarvi. I come from Deutsche Telekom Bonn, so I work in headquarters. I report to Nuebert, my CEO Group, and my function name is Group Business Development and Venture. I have three areas. Area for big partners, we call it Global Strategic Partners, big mobile OS vendors like Sony, Samsung. Then we have network vendors like Nuebert, Cisco, Huawei, and OTT vendors like Amazon, Facebook, and Twitter. The other group is business development. I have teams in Silicon Valley and Israel. We are looking for partnership with emerging companies. And third group is T-Ventures. We have long-running corporate venture funds since 1997. So all these groups are under them.
Right. And Thomas, can you talk a little about yourself, introduce yourself, and how you fit into that structure?
Yep, absolutely. So I report to Heikki, who is obviously based in Europe. So I will be based here I am based in Silicon Valley. They call us the kids in the candy store over in Germany. And I'm heading the North America Business Development and Partnering Initiative for the Deutsche Telekom. I have been in Silicon Valley for 23 years, although I'm native German, but I think it helps to speak eye level to an entrepreneur, a potential partner, or even to the VC community. And that has helped really build the relationships, a trustworthy relationship with the local community.
And you've got a startup background, right?
Yes, actually my whole entire career has been startups. I started multiple companies in 23 years across the Atlantic, primarily between Silicon Valley and Germany, and then over 10 years I spent in multiple startup companies within a desktop video conferencing. So this is my first big company that I'm working for, although this is a small team in Silicon Valley.
Well, Thomas, you're a good person to ask the question then. Because a lot of large companies want to work with Silicon Valley, how important and how useful is it for a large company like Deutsche Telekom and T-Ventures to hire somebody who has a history in the Valley or has a history as an entrepreneur himself?
I personally believe it's extremely important. I might be a little bit biased in that opinion because I just, having a German culture and being here for 23 years is the perfect match, to be honest. But I don't want to offend any expat who comes here from any country to come to Silicon Valley. I just personally believe it takes a while to build your network, right? I mean, I've known you at least for 15 plus years. I have worked around the startup environment. I spoke the same language. I have sat on their side.
Yeah.
You cannot just copy that by sending an expat over. It's just impossible.
It may not be essential, but it's definitely one of the skills you bring to the job. I agree. Other people manage to do it without having that, but it's a value you can also bring among other experiences.
And cultural. You have to understand the culture.
Yeah, I'm always amazed when the delegates come from other countries to represent the telco or the company here in Silicon Valley. I watch how long it takes them to go native. I think it happens pretty quickly, actually. Like, you're right, to build up a personal network like yours over 20 years, that's something different. That's an added value. But people go native remarkably quickly because of how contagious the culture here is. But the building up the personal network is something that takes a little bit more of an investment. I agree. Heikki, you run 3 different groups that are all about partnerships in each one almost. So how did Deutsche Telekom come to recognize how important partnerships were and make it such a senior role to oversee that?
Obviously, we have been partnering, or let's say we have a vendor relationship for a long time. But partnering has kind of increased in importance. And last year, I think we made the first kind of visible change in our strategy when we created a new strategy statement, and one of the 4 pillars to our strategy is innovation through cooperation. So it has been, let's say, the corporate agenda for some time. When I joined 2.5 years ago, I was asked to build a partnering organization where we would have access to best innovation globally.
Yeah. So was that kind of the was that the point in time where Deutsche Telekom said, partnering is important, we're going to elevate it 2.5 years ago, or had it already been occurring before you left?
It has been, growing in importance. We have had spots of let's say, partnering in the past. We have a big system integrator group, T-Systems, it's a $10 billion enterprise system integrator. they started to work with companies like BM Data, when BM Data had 70 people. So we have a culture of working with innovative companies in the past, but now it is becoming more like a mainstream, it's part of the strategy, not just a kind of gap filler.
And so since Thomas is based here, I'm wondering what is the global, where do you look for innovation around the world? Do you get focus areas? Do you look at the whole world together? What are the places that you seek this innovation in these partners?
Well, for us, basically, the partner is global, so we're looking for wherever they come from. But we understand also that there are, let's say, hotspots. Silicon Valley being one. The other area we are looking very closely is Israel, especially for security and communications areas. So we're pretty much kind of open. Of course, we understand that innovation is not enough. It must be very commercial, savvy innovation. And I first time came to Silicon Valley for 1994, so I have seen this industry being, that this area being very kind of good source of innovation.
Yes.
So we have focused areas, like I said, but for example, India and China, we see that the Chinese companies are finally going global. They are not only focused on Chinese operations, they come global. So we will open also for that.
So, just to frame and kind of, I understand DT also has some slides we can go to talk about your top priorities. Are we able to go to the slides?
So when I say that we are looking for, let's say, we are changing a partner approach, this is a very high level view what we are doing, and I understand it's very difficult to read. But if you look at the scope of innovation, so now we have these two groups. One is what we call corporate innovation priorities, like end-to-end payment, cloud services, and then the communication, IT communication services. Those are the areas that we see as a corporate priorities, and all our operations, all our countries will implement in one, according to one principle. Then we have the whole suite of innovation topics, which I'm sure familiar most of you. But what is important that for all those things, as I said, we are not only looking for partnering as a gap filler, we are looking partnering as a way to do it.
Yeah.
If we cannot do it better, if we cannot do it faster, we are looking for a solution from third-party vendor.
So, I'm going to jump in because the question before I carry on. But we've so often heard the not invented here problem. So a large telco like Deutsche Telekom surely has R&D staff playing with all of these ideas. So what happens when you find a potential company, a partner, but it conflicts with some project that's happening internally in the R&D context? Often, I know, this is not a Deutsche Telekom accusation, it's a general accusation for telecoms, but often a half-baked, 10% done internal project is prioritized over a very good partner solution. So how do you come along as a carrier to manage that decision better than the industry classically has?
It's not easy. We, like any other big operator, have a long history of own development. So it's 80s. Probably we're thinking of building our semiconductors. We have a big own innovations, and we continue to have our innovation in-house.
Yeah.
But like 2 years ago, we tried to do everything ourselves.
Yes.
We did video music load services ourselves. We have storage services built in-house. We have even e-book based ourselves. Because in that time there was a strong belief that we can do it, and I still believe that we can do it.
Yes.
But now is coming the different kind of metric, and that's speed. In many cases, we cannot do it as fast as some other companies. And when you ask, how it's going internally, it's not easy. That's why it's important that it's a high-level strategic intent to do it. You cannot do it on the middle level only.
So still interjecting. So it looks like your role itself is an indicator of a structural change to highlight the importance of the experimental innovation over the typical R&D innovation. And so has that structural change impacted the decision process of which the internal technology versus the external technology? Is it better now for the external partners to be able to win that as a result?
That's the aim. That's what we try to do. you know, in the structure, why I'm very high in organization, which is not common in many other operators that report to CEO, is a message to internal things, it's high. But also, structure means that it's basically equal to all development. When we discuss, when we decide, we have alternative.
So, please.
No, it's just kind of showing some examples because, of course, intention is one thing and talk is cheap, but we try to also follow our intention. These are just two examples how we operate. Like on the solution example, Cloud SMB, when we decided to enter the cloud business, we look at that, very, very briefly what we can do internally, and we decided to go fully in partnering. Just a few names on that list, like AppDirect is our platform vendor.
Yes.
Then we are looking for like anchor partners, which are well-known names like Symantec and Microsoft.
Yes.
But also we are opening this platform to business partners like in Germany, when we are talking to hundreds of ISPs.
Let me ask you, you didn't prepare the answer, so you may not know offhand, but in that box of the solution example, Cloud SMB, about how many of those are in the past 2 years?
All of them.
All of them.
Of course, Microsoft is a long-term partner and Symantec too, so in that sense the partnership is not new, but in this area, this has been built within the last 18, 24 months.
You said talk is cheap, but doing that in 2 years is pretty good. So that is impressive. It's also, I asked you for personal reasons, I don't know if you caught my telling of last year's prioritization. But last year's prioritization, all the carriers talked about cloud. So it's interesting to see that in the past 2 years, you made that many partnerships in that cloud space. So you talked about it as a priority and have acted with it as well. So that's pretty impressive. And how does the right side partner examples, how do they differentiate?
Well, that's an area that what we are looking for our, let's say, consumer segment. We see that, as again, everybody knows, mobile phones will be the computing and platform and access to services. And we see a company like Spotify or Evernote, they have good direct access to customers. But what we figure out that if we do a bundle or something value kind of cooperation that our consumers favor, we may win the business, we may increase the customer satisfactions. Spotify, we bundle that in our tariffs, so the users still pay the same like they would pay a standalone service, but they get benefits of the bundle. We announced Evernote last February. We're giving the Evernote premium for free to all our 38 million German customers as a kind of, the voluntary basis. So it's not forced, but it's.
So when you offer Spotify, you're not charging. Tell me, I'm going to go wrong. Are you charging for the data, or just charging for the Spotify or the rate, and the data is included?
Data is included. So from user point, they pay the same. They know it's Spotify service, but they get benefit of this data package.
So T-Mobile is selling the service, not selling data that is used for the service. So you're actually actively partnering in the content ecosystem that way.
That's right.
That's great. And with a very popular application, that is an important part of. Streaming media uses a lot of network bandwidth, so that's a very obvious example for a place to go for a carrier to get involved.
And these are, let's say, two easy examples. Evernote, everybody knows it, Spotify knows it. Our aim is to do it sooner. We want to do Evernote when they are not yet household name. Right. We want to do Spotify when it's emerging, so we can really bring innovations to and the new services and encourage the growth.
Right. And of course, I think you could also drive a tougher deal because you're offering the exposure that you don't yet have in that case.
That's right.
You bring more to the table, like spotting them early. I do find the Spotify example very interesting as a case to talk about. Because stream media is something a lot of carriers try to avoid and kind of act like it doesn't exist, because it puts demands on the network. So how are you able to strike this deal and sell it internally as a good idea to that T-Mobile?
Well, I referred to what we did earlier. So we have our inbuilt music load business. So it was not long ago that we wanted to do ourselves.
Yes.
But now we are open, and that's why having it, not only Spotify, but the other services, having people like Thomas on the ground, we want to see what works, what doesn't work. And also we have a view that we want people to consume more data and pay for it.
Yeah.
And with this kind of bundle, I think it's easy.
So am I correct? That's the last slide, I believe, right? Okay. So Thomas, let me ask you, because you worked with on the Evernote deal, correct?
Yeah, with a lot of.
Yeah.
You see on
So you're the Silicon Valley guy. You're finding innovation here and bringing it back to Germany, but not just Germany, but all of the different arms of.
Yeah. So as Heikki said before, we have the biggest team is in Bonn, in our headquarters.
Yeah. Could you? I'm sorry. Speak up.
Oh, yeah, sure. So the biggest team that we have as part of the whole entire business development team is in Bonn, the headquarters. To have the foot on the ground, to have the people, the access to people over there in the different business units in marketing and sales and what have you. But at the same time, we have people in Berlin and Israel and such. So what we do here is on a very regular basis, we meet with as many potential startup partners as we can. And respectfully, we are trying to literally spend 45 minutes to an hour with almost everybody who knocks on the door, just in case there's something that we just haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you should have that respect to every entrepreneur who has a desire to talk to us, because you never know. At the same time, we have pretty much streamlined to some extent the way the process is working. And I think it's a combination of three things. It's a push and a pull, and it also, a very, I think, important factor to the formula is the executive involvement and the visibility from the German executives over here in Silicon Valley. And I'd like to give a few examples.
Sure.
So on the pull side, it works like there is an identified need within a department somewhere in Germany, for example, German marketing, right? They put a framework around a certain need, and then we go out and I mean not just Silicon Valley, I mean we as the team in Silicon Valley, the team in Israel, or the team in Germany scanning in the European markets, what kind of partner would fit the bill of that particular required need. Everybody does the competitive analysis, you meet with a partner, and then you put the solution together, you present it to that particular project leader in Germany, and then the whole internal process starts with, negotiation, does it fit, does it not fit, and things like that. It's a pretty straightforward process. If I use this event today and yesterday, we have met with many, many companies over the last 24 hours. I can definitely assure that everybody will get an email and a proper follow-up. Now, where we know there is just no fit, we will at least close the loop. We will never ever let somebody hang and just nothing, because that's disrespectful. At the same time, where we do believe there is a slight chance of a fit within Deutsche Telekom, we will have a follow-up meeting in our office to do the proper process. And then nothing is guaranteed, but at least we will pay attention.
Right.
And they will also learn for the future, what is our requirement? What do I have to prepare to actually get engaged with an operator of any sort?
I think this is one of the fantastic things that all the telcos that have offices in Silicon Valley offer. Some better than others, but they all invest in helping the entrepreneurs get to that no or that maybe a lot more quickly, without having to get on an airplane 5 times and fly to Bonn or fly to Tokyo or whatever the case is. And that's one of the things that kind of proudly Telecom Council helps in trying to do is say, listen, you don't have to get on an airplane to connect with these carriers. You can do it here locally and save a lot of time and money. And also find out if you say no, and SK Telecom Recruiter says maybe, okay, I know where I'm going to spend my resources now as an entrepreneur. So that's very practical.
So that's one example.
Yeah.
The other one is the push approach, and that's more like we see a lot of things very early on in Silicon Valley that might not even have hit the European market or the Asian market or whatever just yet. So we do the same process, we analyze, we define trends, and then we present it to Germany in some official form, but it's in a very structured, lean and fast way, right? Yeah. And then the last one, which I think has helped us a lot, particularly in this year, and it also addresses the cultural change that Heikki and the team is trying to implement within the organization itself. And that is enable access to every key decision maker, literally not just our CEO and Heikki, but also the supervisory board and the CTOs and the European NatCos, we call them somewhat still new to us. I made a little bit of a joke, and the joke was when all the carriers were asked to put one slide up with the 5 topics, and I think I was last in line. And I said, you know what, I'm the new kid on the block, but honestly, if you look at the slides, everybody was looking at the same 5 segments of whatever it is. And I made the statement that by the end of the day, it's about location. So if a startup company wants to go into South America, they may not want to talk to us, they want to talk to Telefonica. And vice versa, if you want to go to Europe, you better talk to us, right? And I think I was right with that. But the other one was, by the end of the day, it really comes down to trust, networking, and execution. And I think the slide before with the 2 blocks of the deals that was all happening over the last 20 months have proven it's the speed, it's the execution, and it's the kind of network and trust that you have to build yourself.
Yeah, and I think the process you've established is one of the important parts to get to where you are. You describe the process as everybody gets a review, you sit down, you decide which ones you pass on to Europe. And also,
and it's not perfect, so I don't want to get the hopes up here. It's not perfect.
And not everybody gets a yes either, right?
But we're getting there. Slowly.
I mean, because we looked at those yes companies in those 2 boxes, but just like any VC funnel, there's hundreds of no companies, right? So that's
we met 106 startup companies, and I'm talking about not an exchange of a business card, right? 45 minutes to an hour or multiple times. 106 companies in the months of June, July, August.
June, July, in one quarter.
5 minutes from here.
Well, how many staff do you have in that office to kind of make one of those?
Well, it's a variety of representation that we have. So in the Valley, we have representation of T-Venture. We have T-Labs, our extension, laboratory developers headquartered in Berlin.
R&D.
And then we have our team. We have one gentleman who sits up close to T-Mobile US. We have a very small team here in Silicon Valley of around 4 people maybe. And then we have a remote person who is somewhat scouting the East Coast, New York, Boston. On that note, we are desperately looking for good business development people. So if anybody knows good people, send them our way.
Yeah, great. I'd like to invite people to walk up to the microphones now. We have about 7 minutes left. You talked about how when your senior executives often come over here for a field trip. How important is it, for them to come and see what's happening in Silicon Valley? For a lot of us that live and work here, we think, well, what's to see? I mean, we know it's energizing and awesome.
Thank you. I totally agree with you.
But what's to learn? You know Silicon Valley is cool, don't you? So but apparently